we run our Airbnbs completely remote by ourselves without property management company. I probably spend less than an hour a week managing them.
So tell us more about that.
Yeah, I was gonna say so.
And like, we were absolute rookies, so we're like, we can't do, like, we were like, oh, you can't do a HELOC because you don't even have enough equity to use the HELOC. But someone said, oh, well, you could just put it all in credit cards and then get it reappraised and take the HELOC and pay it off. We're like, oh, that sounds like a great idea. My mission in this is a lot bigger than real estate and leveraging my program. My mission is to create like massive healthcare shifts for the better. So I do help nurses achieve like that freedom and not depend on a job like that burns them out. But like my long-term, my bigger picture in running this is a little bit bigger than just teaching nurses how to invest in real estate. I want to bring a community of nurses.
Welcome to the Investing RN podcast. Today we're joined by BossNurseLynn, as she's known on Instagram. We've seen a lot of what you're doing on Instagram, just really preaching the whole freedom that real estate investing can bring and getting you away from the bedside. Spoiler alert, looks like you've left the bedside, so we'll get into all that. Traveling the country, just making the most of nursing and kind of making it work for you. And it's at the same time growing this Instagram following and your social media presence. It's been cool to watch all that. So we're excited to have you here. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
And you have a YouTube channel also, right?
Yes, we actually do have a YouTube channel. We're trying to grow.
Yeah, cool. So we always like to start off just kind of getting into, your history and how you got into nursing. And so if you could tell us a little bit about that, that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I was actually told I could never be a nurse. I struggled with a lot of anxiety, depression, PTSD, like going through high school. I got associated with the wrong crowd. I was just kind of told that maybe college wouldn't be for me and that it would just be too hard, let alone a nursing program would just be too much for me. Not even like being a nurse. They said a nursing program. So I really kind of took that as a challenge to defy like what everyone was telling me, and I ended up getting into it. Like, long story short, I ended up getting into a nursing program. I ended up getting not just my bachelor's degree but my master's degree because I got this like prove them wrong attitude. And the reason I wanted to be a nurse in the first place is because I wanted to help people. I had a genuine passion for it, and just really, my grandparents were a big inspiration. I've watched, unfortunately, like 2 of my grandparents passed away, but through the hospice process, I was able to help take care of them, and I was like, wow, like this is something that I take a lot of pride in. So really just wanted to do it, not just for myself, but for giving back to other people. And that's really why I got into nursing, just because I really had this genuine passion for caring. And then I was like, I'm going to prove the world wrong and like do it because you guys all say I can't do it.
So I love that mentality. And I am also a little bit like that. Like the best thing that you can do to me is say that I can't do something because, oh man, am I going to do it? Yeah. Whether it's probably doing something I shouldn't. If you say I can't do it, then I'm probably going to do it.
Yeah.
So what did that journey look like for you going through nursing? Because there's so, like, you go through nursing, and what I was told is that there's so many things that you can choose, and you're right, it's a little bit overwhelming once you get out. So what was kind of your process going through nursing school? How did you find wherever you ended up working, and where was that?
Well, so going through nursing school, my husband's actually a nurse too. He was a nurse before me, 2 years before me, and he always did med surg. So I always saw myself going into like a specialty like ICU, or I really liked the idea of going into like the trauma or like the trauma ICU or the ER. But when the pandemic hit, I was still in nursing school. And he's like, we need to be travel nurses. Like, you're in online school anyway, so let's take advantage and go explore the country while you're doing school. And I'm like, well, what about my job as a CNA? He's like, forget your job. We're going to be making way more on my income alone. So I'm like, okay. But then we really started to enjoy the travel life. Like, we loved having the freedom to explore, to choose where we're going to go every 3 months. And I think the only reason I chose med surg was because that was the one that required the least amount of time before you could go travel again. So, I mean, I'm not saying I just chose it just because I didn't like, not that I didn't like it. I mean, my heart was always in like ICU, critical care, like trauma, like some of the more acute sides of nursing. But my love for travel, I think, triumphed that a little bit. So that's kind of where I went into med surge and then eventually med surge travel.
So
Yeah.
you have a few kids now, right? I think I've seen that on your socials.
Yeah, 2 and a third on the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, congrats again. I know I said that earlier, but so where did that kind of fit into your traveling? Because like I was gonna say a lot of kids. I mean, I kind of do. I kind of have a lot of kids. I cannot see myself like just doing traveling forever, especially the way you're doing it. Like to me, that just seems like it's a little bit overwhelming. How are you able to do that?
Well, I mean, I think it's like this whole concept of I was told I couldn't be a nurse, and then I was told it was going to be hard to travel with one kid. And then people are like, how could you have 2 kids and travel in an RV? And I'm like, no one's even asking me about how I'm going to do it with the third one. I think they're just like, they assume I can do it. It's actually a lot more fun than you think. I mean, even like, I know we'll get into this later with me retiring the bedside, but when we were travel nursing, taking contracts together, we made it work with 2 kids. It's such a more like, it's a simplified lifestyle. You're a lot like less materialistic. We keep like, I probably have like 4 outfits that I wear because we're just keeping things minimized, but it's kind of fun even with kids because you can take them to different types of parks, different types of like scenery, different types of fun things to do. And no, I did not like Disney World. I liked kind of just exploring and seeing what else I can see that's like the rest of the US doesn't value as much. So just really kind of worked with 2 kids. We made it work. We actually, I mean, everyone's like, well, you can't even say you live in an RV. It's like a 2-bedroom apartment, which technically it is because it does have 2 bedrooms. It's like almost 500 square feet. So, but we make it work. We love it. And it's more of the, I'll show you. Said, how am I going to have 1? How am I going to have 2? Like, now I'm on number 3 and no one's even asking. So,
Yeah. I think I was doing a travel assignment in Northern California, and there were some travelers, or there were even staff, I think, that were living in RVs at like a local RV park. And like I have a small 24-foot old Airstream trailer that I fixed up, so I'm like imagining that, and they're like, yeah, no, I have a washer, dryer, dishwasher. I was like, wait a second, what is this? And then like Josh got an RV, and it's got like a king bed in it with all the slide outs and all that stuff.
yeah.
All right, that makes sense. But in terms of like how you guys like do you both take travel assignments right now while you're traveling with the 2 kids, or is one of you doing that?
So right now we're both focused on our business and being nurse entrepreneurs. I teach here and there, like I'll teach nursing clinicals, but it's more of like a PRN job. I like to teach people, so kind of staying in the game of nursing without worrying about the income. And then my husband, he'll take travel assignments literally like when he misses nursing. He's like, oh, I kind of miss patient care. I'll go take an assignment and then I won't take an assignment. Like he'll just take one for the purpose of taking one at this point, or to enjoy a certain location. So money really isn't like a factor for us anymore with like rates. So if I'm happen to not be like, if I'm taking a semester off of teaching, like we'll go wherever we want to go. So just kind of living this free lifestyle of, I think one of the biggest things I emphasize is being a nurse on your own time and terms, not being tied down to any specific thing, but definitely
Absolutely.
just the freedom.
Yeah. So Colin mentioned the RV I bought. That was definitely one of the things. Like we walked into the RV dealer and the guy like looked at me like, you can't buy one of these. And so that like we had no plans on buying one when we went in there, but he looked at me and I was like, I'm walking out of here with one of these. So don't do what I do sometimes. But no, sorry, that was a little tangent, but coming back to what you were saying, just had to throw that in there. Like that's what we all want, is like just to do nursing on our own terms. And like, I think there's a lot of people that hate like being forced into nursing, I guess. I don't know how to say it. Like, so my sister, she actually like doesn't really enjoy like the nursing part of it. But I think there's a vast majority of people that like just feel burnt out, and they would like to still work as a nurse, but on their own terms, is what you're preaching, we're preaching. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
people are saying. So
Mm-hmm.
what do you, and you coach people. So what, like on your first like introductory calls or whatever, like how do you get to that point? Like how do you decipher whether they're not right for nursing at all, or whether or not they just feel like they're forced to come in and work every single day and pick up the extra shifts?
So when I get on my calls with people, because I am like targeted and coaching them into real estate, and a lot of people a lot of nurses want to get into it for different reasons. Like some people love nursing, and they're not burnt out. And I mean, I'm gonna go into a whole new rabbit hole of saying what states they are burnt out and not. That could be a whole reel for later. But I usually I kind of gauge like their goals, like if they really want freedom, or are they looking for something to do because they're bored. Because as we all know, like getting into real estate, it's not something to do if you're just looking for time killing purposes. Like you're getting into it because you want to build something bigger for yourself. So I really like to make sure like their reasons for getting into it is right. Some people who get into it are expecting it to be like this easy quick fix that you could just jump into it and do it, and it's not all that easy. So I want to make sure they're getting into it knowing that, okay, this is going to be an investment in myself. This is going to be an investment for my future. And I really want to just make sure that their goals are like in line with the values of my program, because I don't want people to be not successful if they choose to work with me. I'm not like a 60% NCLEX pass rate. Like everyone who joins, I'm like, you're going to be successful. So really trying to kind of tweak and modify their plan based on their goals. But if you think like you're just going to get this easy and it's just going to be a smooth ride and process, and you're just kind of doing it to save time and you're not that serious about it, then I'm kind of at a point where it's like, well, I appreciate what you do as a nurse, but real estate's not for you.
I think that's a good point, because it's like, you know, we I want to say like grew up, but like grew up in our real estate journey listening to Bigger Pockets, and it's like you hear all these people doing it, and it's like, I mean, just hearing the stories makes it sound easy, and people like to highlight the good aspects of real estate and what they're doing. But in the time that we've been doing it, it's definitely been hard, and especially handling the property management side of things. And we're doing long-term rentals, so it's like dealing with tenants on a long-term basis. But in the short-term rental market, it's probably even more challenging to a certain extent because of the turnover. But yeah, I think highlighting that is really important. So when you go into that and then somebody maybe isn't a good fit, like, are you just kind of like, all right, well, good luck, or do you kind of guide them to something else, or what's your plan for them there?
Oh no, I guide them in what they could be doing. I actually have a lot of people like who don't necessarily want to get into real estate, and I'm like, well, I'm sorry, I do coach on real estate, but if this is what you want to do, if this was like what the direction you want to go, I can't necessarily coach you, but I will like make recommendations on what they can do. Go gain knowledge in this, go to this person. I'm all for, like, I had someone who wanted to go into digital marketing, and I'm like, well, if you like have zero like interest in real estate and you were just, I kind of give them an overview of what it might be. They're like, maybe not. I'm like, well, listen, if you choose you want to like get into it, you know where to find me. But if you want like digital marketing, I do refer them, because I know there's so many other nurses who coach on that too. I know, like, or like a group assisted living home. Like I will refer to other people who I know are on Instagram or YouTube who do similar things and coach other nurses. So I'm just all for bringing the nursing community up, no matter what our interests are. So I don't just say, okay, bye, like you're lost. I'm like, no, you can go do this, this, and this. I get a lot of people too, like, who aren't necessarily in the US, and I'm flat honest. I mean, real estate is so different every country, so I'm not gonna help you or enroll you in my program because that's not gonna be a benefit for you, because I don't know anything about like Australia's real estate like laws or practices and Airbnbs, let alone. So I feel like I don't want to set people up for failure either.
Yes.
Yeah.
When you're doing mostly Airbnb, right? Or only Airbnb, or what does your portfolio look like right now?
So I do a combination of Airbnb and midterm rentals. So that's just, and it depends, like, because I've like really learned the market on where you're going to make the most money at any given time. So I teach people how to pivot their listings and their market according to what's going to make them the most money. For example, like one of my properties in the Midwest, it does really, really well in the summer on Airbnb. It's a hot market. I mean, like this June, I have an $8,000 month on just one property, which is pretty significant. But then like in the winter time, the Airbnb market kind of plummets, and I do this through market research. But as we know, like these travel nursing rates rack up in the winter. So I list it on Furnished Finders for travel nurses January, February, March, and reap my profits that way as well. So I don't even like open it up on Airbnb during the slow times. I am kind of an expert at give me a location and I'll tell you what you should do with it, how much you should list it for, what platforms you should use, and what months you should use these platforms.
Okay, that makes sense. And for those listeners that are not from the Midwest, $8,000, that's significant. Like I know if on the West Coast you're like, oh, that doesn't even cover my mortgage, but out here that's a significant amount of money. In the Midwest, yeah, that's where I am. So
yeah, so actually, like my mortgage is only $2,000 on the Midwest.
Okay, there. So there's a pretty good amount of perspective.
Correct.
Nice.
Yeah. So how are you? Because you said give you a market and you'll tell whoever how to or like what strategy to implement there. But how are you particularly choosing markets? Is it just like, oh, hey, we're traveling here, there's a nice house, like let's do that one? Or do you guys have a different system for how you choose markets?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people, like when they think about real estate investing, they think of just like going all in and throwing all of their cash into it. And when they're beginners, I like to kind of start with the building blocks, so like they don't have to learn so much at once and be super, super overwhelmed. So I like to suggest they start small, kind of learn the game on a cheaper market, but with high profits. And then eventually, like they could go into more, I mean, we're talking like Florida homes or like Palm Springs or, I mean, these are really cool locations. Now, do you need a lot more money to invest there? Yeah. But I also want like the beginners to be beginners and not go from like needing it. It's just like going from like a rehab to an ICU like that. I don't want that. I want them to be like baby steps.
Yeah. I actually had a really long conversation this morning with one of my real estate investor buddies. I mean, I could give his name on here. I don't know why I said it like that. But he was saying like a lot of these gurus, they're just talking about like, oh, you've never done a deal, go raise some money. You don't need your own money, do all this stuff. And it's like, especially in today's market, like it's going to turn out like terrible. And a lot of people are going to be really hurt and lose a ton of money. And especially for these beginners that don't have a lot of money, they're raising money and then they lose it. And then I don't know what it's going to do, but it's not going to look really good at all. So I'm glad that there's some sensible coaching out there.
Yeah.
But I always hear them like people talking about like, oh, if you can do like a 1 unit, you can do a 10 unit. And like to a certain extent that's true, but at the same time, like I think people get so caught up in that whole analysis paralysis. And it's like when you lower that barrier of entry and like the risk, you're a lot more likely to make that first move, and then you can jump to like the next, several moves or whatever. And then like these people like, oh yeah, don't buy like the funky duplex and like all this stuff. It's like, well, you got to start somewhere. And like you said, Midwest, I think it's great. That's where we started. And it was like first house was 35 grand. Like we could afford to mess that up basically.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
Yeah. So I will come back to like the Airbnb one more time. Yeah. So can you walk us through like your first deal and like what even led you into the real estate world?
Okay, so we initially invested in real estate. Like we were like, oh, we're gonna do long term or midterm. We're just gonna do this to build wealth. Think if we invest in like 5 or 6 properties and 30 years down the line, we're not gonna have mortgages. This is like even better than if we're gonna figure out ways to put equity in the home. That's kind of where we started. There's a big story on how we kind of learned Airbnb was super profitable by accident. And by accident, I mean like we made so many mistakes the first like year trying to invest. We're talking tens of thousands. I mean, I guess we'll get numerical here, but like $100,000 mistake. And
Wow.
That's
we were in such a very tough spot where it's like, okay, like what do we do? So out of desperation, we listed it on Airbnb, and we started getting booking after booking after booking, and I'm like, whoa, like this is kind of a lot of money here. So then we took our other property and put like that one on Airbnb, and it started taking off, and we're like, we dug ourselves out of the hole that we were in. So that's kind of like how I got started with the Airbnb. And then I made other mistakes too, where it's like there was a slow time in Airbnb and I only had like 3 bookings. I'm like, okay, great. Like, how am I going to make up for this one with the mortgage? Because now I only have 3 big. That's where I'm like, oh, we could do midterm rentals in the slow season. So, getting into real estate initially, like it was just going to be this like slow building process. And we actually discovered Airbnb by accident through some of the mistakes that we made that we used as a last resort out of desperation a couple years ago. And I guess like long story short, this is where I tell people like get houses that you could list right away. Don't sign up for any gut jobs or massive renovation projects. But I publicly tell people about this mistake because this is what led me to where I am. Our first home that we got, it was like on an FHA loan. Well, it was a conventional, it was under my husband's name. It was in like the suburbs, right? Like this is the money making house here. And it was a 3-bed, 1-bath house. And we decided that we were going to like renovate the basement, like complete the basement, add a bedroom, add a bathroom to it. And like we were absolute rookies. So we're like, we were like, oh, you can't do a HELOC because you don't even have enough equity to use the HELOC. But someone said, oh, well, you could just put it all in credit cards and then get it reappraised and take the HELOC and pay it off. We're like, oh, that sounds like a great idea. Long story short, this 5 to 7 week gut job of the basement turned into like a 11-month project where we put it on the credit cards, and we're like telling the contractor, like, why is it not done yet? Like it flooded, this and that. He's like, oh, now I'm waiting for rain. I said, I don't got time to wait for rain. Like by the time we were like, it was done and running, our budget doubled from 50K to we had to pay like ServPro tens of thousands of dollars to clean up some of the like plumbing flooding mess that we had in our basement. I mean, like literally a day after it passed final inspection, it flooded. Like the whole thing was gone. So it was just a really hard situation. We had to like pay the damages, pay the contractors. By the time we could go get it reappraised and take a HELOC, our credit scores were too trash to even do that. So we're like, do we throw the towel in or like what do we do? Because like this just isn't gonna work. This was like this issue could have ended somebody, and this was only on one house, and we ended up listing it on Airbnb to a point where it's like, okay, it was like easy to pay these credit cards. It was easy to get our credit scores up and running again. So really like it was kind of like this hidden gem that we discovered out of pure desperation, learned the game of Airbnb, how to list it. I mean, one of my houses is like priced at $350 when everyone around me is $250. People are still booking me. So we just got really savvy with our techniques and learning and how to make like a lot of money off of any given time. So if anyone's gonna make a way, it's gonna be like my husband and I. But that's kind of like a gist of how we got into it.
Did you say, so you said your first house was in the suburbs. Did you say what suburbs it was in?
Yeah, so DuPage County.
DuPage. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm familiar with that.
Yeah. So.
I lived in one of the suburbs in Chicago for a little while. So you bought this a few years ago, was it?
Yeah.
So what year did you buy this in?
21. Yep.
2021. Okay. Are you seeing a lot of legislation coming through that's hurting you, or is it actually helping you because you're already established in some of these areas?
So I see like a lot of people like, oh, there's like these Airbnb bans, blah blah blah. It's actually it does limit the areas you can go into, but you could actually make a lot of money off of midterm rentals as well. So that's why I really teach both. I don't want people to be so tunnel visioned on, oh, Airbnb is great, this and that, when midterm rentals can be just as great. I do see a lot of, definitely, like, it affects a lot of people in a sense where they like throw their towel in because like this was my major money maker. But actually what people don't know is like you pivot to something called the midterm rentals where you go on furnished finders or you go on actually, like, I submitted my house to insurance companies where they will displace family members who have had like floods in their home or like a tornado hit their ceiling or whatever it is, like displaced for whatever reason. And I learned a really cool trick is that these insurance companies will pay you whatever because it's better than putting a family into a hotel. So they're gonna pay you whatever.
So I've heard a lot about that. Like a lot of people will say, "Oh, I just talked to these insurance companies," and in my mind, I'm like, "Oh my!" Like these insurance companies, especially the big ones,
Mhm.
their websites are so like they're just massive companies. So how do you even get in touch with some of these companies that are willing to put these insurance claim families into your houses?
I do local searches, but then also you'd be surprised how much insurance companies reach out to me through furnished finders. And then on
Okay.
Zillow, because like there's another little hack. So on Zillow, a lot of places for rent are listed long term. We listed our home on Zillow for midterm, and just the like I said, we were talking about thumbnails earlier. The thumbnail was fully
Yeah.
furnished month to month, so we got so many insurance companies just reaching out to us just from those alone. So I did submit, like, there's a couple like resource like websites you could submit, and then it goes to databases with insurance companies. But then there's like, I would say almost like 60 to 70% of them found me.
Oh,
Can you guys
kind
hear
of
me?
glitched a little bit. Sorry. What was that last? Yeah, it glitches every once in a while. Like we can work through those glitches. But what was the last thing you were saying?
Okay. I said like probably 60 to 70% of the insurance companies actually find me because of the way I
Oh,
market it.
Okay. So I guess that's a little bit I don't want to say scary, but as like especially as a new investor, if somebody's coming in and they're hearing all these things about midterm rentals, they're getting ready to list it on Furnish Finder and stuff. That's not really something you can like underwrite. It's I mean, me if I was underwriting a midterm rental, it'd be hard for me to underwrite it like counting on these insurance companies if I've never done it before. So I assume that's something that you're helping your coaching clients with, and that's what
Mhm.
you're doing as well. But like I don't know, like
Yeah.
how much can you really underwrite for these insurance companies to just reach out to you whenever you list it on Furnish Finder?
I mean, like, you would be like surprised. I actually haven't had any insurance companies place a family in my home yet because I've always been booked to travel nurses. Um, I mean, I can tell you like tens of
Okay.
20, 30 emails, and I'm like, we can't even look at these right now because we're have Airbnb going or we have travel nurses in there right now. But it is definitely like and it is a lot of people like ASAP move in. So it is definitely scary because people like are definitely skeptical about it, but like um I mean, it's a thing, and I don't even know how to. It's almost like one of those hidden gems that you didn't know existed.
Yeah.
when you guys are doing this, because I guess this you've kind of happened into it by mistake.
Mhm.
Have you guys managed these, and have you been local to the area where your Airbnbs are, or are you guys using property management companies for these?
So we run our Airbnbs completely remote by ourselves without property management company. I probably spend less than an hour a week managing them. Once we set up our systems, it's literally copy paste. Like, we have a whole list of things that we have to do before we list it, and then once it's listed, it's smooth flowing.
So
Tell us more about that.
yeah, I was
No,
gonna
I'm just
say,
kidding.
well, no, but like, yeah, what does that look like? Like, as far as like, what's your process for setting up an
Yeah,
Airbnb in a new area so that it is only 1 hour a week?
yeah. So I set up all my, like, I get all my furniture together. I make sure, like, we talk about listing it right, like the ability to list it right away. The things that have been lifesavers are like smart devices, so smart locks that I could switch the lock code from like 1,000 miles away, just via Wi-Fi. Once your phone's connected, it's connected. So we have our locks completely calibrated where like I'm 1,000 miles away from one of my properties, and I could just switch the locks like right now if I wanted to, per guest. Because I mean, like, how sketchy are you when you go into an Airbnb and they're like, passcode is 1234? You're like, how many people can get in this dang Airbnb? I don't know. But no, we have like very specific codes. So, like that smart lock system is something we set up. We set up outdoor live security cameras so we could access it. Like we could see it at any time. Like if a homeless guy is going through our garbage in certain areas of the West Coast, or if something like weird is happening. But I mean, they're outdoor, but it's kind of cool because then we can know like if the guest is checked in or not. And then we do set up like our systems when it comes to maintenance and cleaning crews. So I hire my cleaning crew through Care. A normal cleaning service would charge you like $140 to, and then I actually like you could hire third-party contractors on Care.com for house cleaning for like $20 to $30 an hour, depending on where your location is, and spend half of the price that you spend as if you were to spend on a cleaning service. And I interview like 2 or 3 of them. I trial 2 or 3 of them, and then based on their availability, like they know what to do. I train them. I say, hey, I have my linens here. Just switch out these linens and you go clean them. Between guests, like my checkouts at 11, my check-ins at 3. Throw the laundry in right away. I have 2 sets of linen so they can clean it quickly. I have maintenance men with their own specific codes. So if they're accessing the house, I know who's accessing it based on the codes that I set. I have a smart thermostat, so I can control the temperature from thousands of miles away as well if I really had to. So that's kind of like what my processes look like with that. I mean, I have landscapers, literally every single crew that you need to maintain a house. I hire them within like a week or 2 after I set up all my systems, my remote systems. Then I'm out of there.
So I mean, even it sounds pretty streamlined, but even like going through that, it sounds like, do you have to go visit each of these properties while you're getting them up and running? To me, it sounds like something that I would feel like I would need to be in the area for, at least from the start.
Yeah, so to get up and running, I always encourage you to physically be there. But it's like the mindset. It's kind of fun to do. If you're going into a location that you like some people like, I want to invest in Nashville. I said, you want to take your family on a vacation in Nashville? Go set up your property in Nashville. Reap the tax benefits of it being a business, like a business vacation, whatever. Enjoy your property for a bit, like hire all your systems and then leave. I think like the first one, it took us a bit longer because we were new. But like when we were doing the others, we're like, oh, I could do this in my eyes closed. I know how to set this up in a few days, and I could just leave. And again, like it is a mindset shift. I tell people, I say they're like, oh, what about travel expenses and this and that? Like that, like I have to take some time off of work. I'm like, well, I mean, like that's a mindset shift. Like, do you want to be confined to a W-2 job your whole life? Or do you want to have the freedom to travel wherever, whenever, however? I feel like once you get a house set up, you don't have to be there.
Yeah. Are you picking any locations like based on like, hey, like we want a lake house in like, I don't know, wherever
Wisconsin.
There's lakes. Yeah, Wisconsin, sure. But like, are you like, oh, let's pick this location. We'll do this lake house here, and then we'll spend like a month every year on the lake.
Yeah. So actually, yes, like certain people based on what they want or what they like desire, if it's doable within a plan, absolutely. I have someone who literally, like you said, Colin, like they love being on lakes. They love lake houses. And I'm like, well, then we're going to do some market analysis on some lake houses in the Midwest. I've had another person who's like, oh, my son goes to school in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and I know that's a really good market there too. When it comes to Airbnb midterm rentals, you not only have a university town, but you have a hospital that has a lot of travel nurses. I'm like, get your vacation home there. Your kid goes to college there. Like, there you go. So it's just like kind of pivoting on what your situation is. I have people who are like, I like the beach. I'm like, well, you want a beach house in Florida, let's do a little bit of building blocks here, but you could probably get that within like 2 to 3 years if you put your head in the game. hardcore enough. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. But yes, definitely, I'm the master at finding a way, no matter where you are, what situation you're in.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you touched on the tax benefits of it too, because I mean, without that's like a whole nother episode, but like if you have your W-2 and you're still in the hospital as an Airbnb, you can write off all of, or a lot of them, all of them, I think, the travel expenses and all that, and then you can use the depreciation from the house as long as you spend enough time managing them. So that's
The
huge.
first,
And
yeah, like
we're
the first year we did our taxes, we wrote off so much. My husband and I looked at each other. We're like, is this legal? And it is. Like, we did the research on it. We're like, holy, like,
Mhm.
you could write off so much depreciation. You could write off, and if you guys, like, if you're travel nurses, if you make anything relevant to your business, like, you can write it off. And I don't think many people know that's like a huge benefit that real estate gives you. They give you a lot of tax benefits. It's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. That and like as a business owner, you can write off your business expenses, but as a real estate investor, you can write off everything that's related to that. But then you also get to depreciate your money and the money that you from the loan. So you get to write off the entire purchase price.
Mm-hmm.
Well, almost the entire purchase price. Like,
Yeah.
okay, fine, go seek some legal counsel on this
Yeah,
because I'm messing it
please.
up. No, but like you get to depreciate
Something.
the leverage that you're using, not just the money that you have in the deal.
100%.
Yeah.
And that's like, I always tell people, like, I'm like not a tax expert. I could tell you like what we did, you seek your tax professional. But like, I mean, we watch Carlton Dennis on Instagram, and he talks a lot about like the cost
Oh, he's great.
segregation, and I'm like, this is what I'm talking about. So really,
This, I can't explain it, but this is it.
Yep.
Well, and I think it's interesting too, because it's like, I think Josh, I don't know if he was mentioning it before we started recording or what, but it's like the real estate investing we're doing, we have been doing a lot of like creative financing where our properties aren't necessarily cash flowing much day one, but it's like with these cost segregation studies and like taking the depreciation to offset the taxes, like that could potentially free up, like, you know, for Josh, he's a CRNA, so he makes a pretty solid, like, you know, W-2 income. And if that just like frees up, like, let's say like $20,000 to $50,000 worth of taxes, I mean, that's like cash flow and an extra couple grand a month. So it's very significant.
It's an instant 30% raise. Like you're not going to get that anywhere else.
So it's definitely awesome.
Yeah. And then another cool thing too, like, is other, like, if you open up another LLC, because I have so many nurses who are also interested in something else. Like, I have someone who, I've had like 2 people in the past month who are like, I'm interested in like a children's book LLC. I learned this like literally just 2 weeks ago. I don't remember what I was watching, but if you open up an LLC, that's like you're automatically could deduct $5,000 without even making income off of it. I don't remember where I found that, but
that's new.
Like it's new. So I'm like, you can open up your LLC for your like Airbnb company, and then you want to go open up an LLC for something that you're interested in, you might want to scale later. Like there's already $10,000 in deductions that you can like write off without even doing anything.
Yeah.
So
when you're saying like with your coaching, you got nurses coming to you, are you seeing like what's the driving force behind like a lot of people seeking something different? Are they just looking for more time freedom, like just generating extra income? Are you seeing a decent amount of burnout with the people that are like pursuing your coaching?
Most people pursuing my coaching are burnt out, and they just feel hopeless when they think about working bedside all the way to being 70. They have other passions too. Like they're like, I love to be a nurse, but I want to like to be a nurse again. I don't want to hate going into work anymore. So I do see a lot of people who are burnt out who are already interested in real estate. They just don't know where to get started. So it's kind of like a 50-50, like half of them is like, I'm burnt out. I can't do this my whole career. I've already decided to do real estate. I just don't know where to get started. So that's kind of like the main population that will come to me. I have another set of people who are like, I have real estate, but I don't know how to leverage it. So that's where I come in, where I can help with listings. And I've recently modified my programs where I can help you from just getting your first home and not renting anymore to leveraging your Airbnb, to optimizing your listing, to actually taking action and listing it, or actually taking action and getting a second home. So that's kind of like the population that I see.
So I was asking how many clients you're working with now, and are you accepting like more? What's your goal? Are you trying to, well, obviously you're trying to grow that business, but how many are you working with now? And then like, what's your ideal community size, I guess?
Yeah, as of right now, I have 21 clients. A couple of them are wrapping up my program, that they are successful. Everybody has been successful in my program. Like, they're taking action, they're making moves. As far as how many I can take, I try not to get more than like 5 or 6 enrollments a week, just because I want to continue to provide quality guidance. But depending on the phases each person is in, I could take on a little bit more, or if I have a couple people in a certain phase, I would take a little bit less. But typically,
Okay.
like
And
are these like, go ahead.
Are these like one-on-one clients, or do you do kind of like groups of like 5? What does it look like when you work with these people?
I do one-on-one. I feel as nurses, like being face to face, having that like personal relationship with someone is someone that I like that a lot of nurses really value. So I have a lot of people who are like, wow, like I've never joined a program where it's so like personal and like you're so relatable. So I do try to keep it one-on-one. But I also do have like a Facebook community that every single one of my students get into, and they have unlimited access to it even though they finish the program. Just because I want to build a community. I don't want to be that program where it's like you have 6-month access to this private group and you're done. Like, I want them to have unlimited access, because my goal is to really just build nurses up. And I know we kind of tend to eat our own now. My husband's a nurse, and he's like, it's just because you're a female. I said, well, most nurses are female, so I mean, like, you can't even blame me there. But I mean, I know I'm talking to male nurses, but
sorry, can't relate. I'm so sorry. No, I'm just kidding.
No, even my husband's like that. But like us female nurses, man, like we tend to eat our own. And I mean, you guys probably can't relate, but you've probably seen it in action.
Oh, I've seen
Oh
it.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why can't we
Yeah.
like, I feel like the stress, the tension of the job, I'm like, why can't we just like lift each other up? So yes, I'm trying to create a community. I'm just like, my mission in this is a lot bigger than real estate and leveraging my program. My mission is to create like massive healthcare shifts for the better. So I do help nurses achieve like that freedom and not depend on a job like that burns them out. But like my long term, my bigger picture in running this is a little bit bigger than just teaching nurses how to invest in real estate. I want to bring a community of nurses who are going to have a voice. I think specifically like med-surg, they are subject to very unsafe work conditions in most states. I mean, I can tell you, like, the amount of people who come to me who are just in tears, they're like guilty. They're like, I want to love nursing again. I hate it, and I feel so guilty because I work so hard for this degree, and I'm just so disappointed. Cost of living is rising, but they're capping nursing wages. Like, there's just like this outrage with it. And I feel like my genuine intention is that if we can get more nurses who are free to do what they want when they want, work on their own time and terms, that it will shift healthcare for the better. Because right now it is suffering. A lot of nurses are they're angry, they're disappointed, they're burnt out. And my goals are a lot bigger than just teaching real estate. My goal is to build a community. And talking about being loud on Instagram, like, I want to make more nurses loud.
But yeah, like same thing. Like our purpose is not to convince people to like do real estate investing instead of nursing, like, but to give that option that could just, you know, make people happy in the workplace and make the place, let people do what they love. Like, because nursing is definitely a calling, and if you have the freedom to do it as you please, it can be enjoyable again for people. So that's great that you're doing that.
Well, it's like your husband too. You said that he'll take a shift whenever he misses it, and he'll just go back. Like that's the dream. Like, everybody wants to do that. Like, if you're a nurse, I'm sure I'm sure there's quite a few that will quit and never look back, but I'm sure there's another large majority where they'll like go back on their own terms, and it's going to be amazing. And the patients will get better care because of it.
Yeah. I mean, my husband hasn't taken a shift in 4 months, and he's like ready to just take a very small contract just to feel like he's doing nursing care again, because he does. He loves it. For me, I teach how I want, I mean, not how I want, but like I teach when I want, where I want, on my own terms, and I still definitely get that patient interaction in teaching too. So, but I mean, like the bigger picture is if more nurses are not depending on these jobs that burn them out, these healthcare systems are be like, okay, we need to make some changes, because they clearly don't need us as much as we need them. So,
Right.
and for those who maybe not be in the mindset to leave the bedside or be able to, I hope my mission still helps them, because we're creating more freedom for nurses as a whole.
Yep. So,
Yeah.
all right. So we're getting close on time. So we're gonna move into our final 5, the final segment of our show.
Yeah.
Do I call this a show? I guess
I think
podcast.
it's a show.
It's a show. Welcome to the show. All right. So the first question is, what is a top besides Boss Nurse Couple? I think that's your YouTube, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So there's that. But also, aside from that, what's a top financial resource that you found? Like, where do you go to educate yourself?
Oh, financial resource. I watch a lot of entrepreneurs and their financial journeys. So I use them as an influence. So like Alex Hormozy, Myron Golden. I like to use Dave Ramsey to get out of debt, but I don't like his like concepts when it comes to like, he's like, oh, buy a house on cash. I don't like if I'm all for his methods for certain things. Like I said, I'm the one who'll pivot the market to make the most money off of any given thing. So as far as like financial resources, it's more like entrepreneurs that I watch, that I gain knowledge from, that I use as my inspiration. So definitely my top 2 would be Alex Hormozy and Myron Golden. Another big person is Eileen Wilder. But as far as like methods or resources, like I'm kind of the one, I'm like, I'm going to use whatever method is going to bring me the most benefit at any given time. So that's, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's funny. I'm pretty sure I've heard Alex Hormozy kind of poking fun. I mean, a lot of entrepreneurs poke fun at Dave Ramsey. They're like, there's however many billionaires in the world, there's only one that did it without debt, and that is Dave Ramsey. So that I'm not trying to be a billionaire. That's way more than I think I ever want, but still, the numbers don't lie.
I'm gonna start buying houses with envelopes of cash.
I'm like, use his methods first.
Yeah.
No. Like, use his methods for certain things, and go to other methods for other things. For sure.
Yeah, for sure. So the second question is, what advice would you give yourself as a new grad?
Oh, okay. So my advice would be to don't feel like you have to have it all together in your first weeks. Don't even feel like you have to have it all together by the time you're off of orientation. Nursing is such a hard but rewarding job that don't feel like you're obligated to just have everything together. I see the look on some new grads' faces, like the first week of orientation, and it's kind of like, oh my gosh, like what did I get myself into? And I just tell them, like, don't expect to have it all together. It's fine. Just use this as a learning process, and always be looking to grow, whether it's in your nursing career or financially or with your relationships. Just always be looking for growth, and don't expect to have it all together.
For sure.
Yeah, that jump from nursing school to like actually being a nurse is pretty severe. Like I went straight to ER, and I was like, it was a tough 6 months for me, but made it eventually.
Yeah, and I usually tell people, like, the most I ever learned in nursing school was the 3 months after nursing school. Like, you study and you learn a ton, but I don't know, the first 3 months on the job is where you really learn a lot. All right. Number 3 is, what excites you about the next 12 months? What are you, I know you're building your business, so I'm sure that's a big part of it, but what are you looking forward to in the next 12 months?
Yeah, I'm right now, the only thing that's keeping me in one place is having a baby. So once I have a baby, I am looking forward to growing my business, but growing my business in remote locations. wherever in the country. And actually all my businesses. We have like 3 other businesses in addition to the real estate business. So really just looking forward to taking our RV and parking it here and there whenever we want. And just meeting so many nurses and being humbled by their stories and their situations.
So number 4 is if you were to tell people to do one thing right now, what would you tell them to do?
Take action now. Don't wait. If you're looking to do something and you're looking to, whether it's investing or you want to start pursuing these dreams, whatever you want to do, start now. The best time to start was yesterday. So the next best time to start is today. And I feel like if you're going to wait for that perfect situation to start something, then that time's never going to come. If you're really ready and passionate, no matter what you're passionate and ready to do, start taking action now.
That's a popular answer. I think it is. It is just like, yeah, you just got to do something.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. If you wait to do anything in 5 years, you're always going to be like, oh man, kicking yourself. Should have done it 5 years ago.
Yeah.
All right. Number 5 is what is the biggest financial mistake you've made and what did you learn from it?
Oh gosh. Well, I think I already covered actually, never mind. I made a big financial mistake with the house flood, but I'll give another one. When I was in nursing school, I had a car and my parents were kind of helping me through nursing school, but when the pandemic hit, it got right before the pandemic hit, it got really hard. And I was so financially illiterate that I'm like, I'll go. I had such a great credit score. I'm like, I'm just going to go nursing school. I don't want to work as much. So I want my car payment to be less. So I'm going to go get another car with a great credit score because I can for a lower monthly payment and then voluntarily repossess my other car. Oh, it was so ridiculous. It hurt my so you guys are laughing. My husband when
I don't even know what that means.
This dumb dealership gave me the idea. They're like, well, you have enough credit score to get approved for a second car loan and this will be your monthly payment. I'm like, cool, what do I do with the old one? Well, you're so bent backwards, just give it back to Volkswagen and say I'm done. And that's exactly what I did, and it was really, really stupid. And everyone laughs at me for it. I'm like, well, I'm laughing at myself for it too. I
just don't even fully.
Yeah, I don't know if I understand that. That's what?
It's like it's a poor person mindset. It's called a voluntarily repossession. So you just hand your car and you say,
car dealers are.
Yeah.
That's some next level sales techniques.
I'm glad thank you for sharing that with us, because your $100,000 flood mistake might have been good enough, but I'm really glad you shared that with us.
This was like a silly thing when I was very beginning in nursing school. I kind of we all joke about it now. Even my family's like, well, this dummy voluntarily repossessed her car all for a lower car payment. And it's just all laughable now. So
yeah. So clearly, the thing we can learn from this is you can afford to make some mistakes and still come out on top. So it's great. You just have to persevere, and you'll find your way. What is I think we kind of talked about what you're doing, but what does your current portfolio look like?
My current portfolio, with the real estate or with all my businesses?
Yeah, both.
Oh, yeah, I guess I didn't. We see what you're doing with real estate. I didn't realize you have other businesses also.
Yeah, so
dang it, we're gonna have to get you back on and talk about those.
Yeah, no. So I have right now only 2 rental properties. Instead of investing in more real estate, I manage, I help my students manage. So I've managed 3 at one time. I could manage up to 5 or 6 at one time. But instead of investing in more real estate, I just have this mindset to grow, to always learn something new. So I have a cleaning business because my Airbnbs were required 8 or 9 cleanings a month. And that's actually how I found that care.com technique. I was like, so if I have my Airbnb LLC pay my cleaning business LLC, there's a lot more tax benefits with that as well. It shows more business income. I actually had other Airbnbs can you come clean our Airbnb for us too? And I send my contractors to do their Airbnbs because I trained them to do it. So that's yes, conversation for a different day. I also have another LLC for we have like a YouTube channel, like you saw our YouTube channel, but my book, I wrote a book called Unshackled. It's on Amazon, and that just kind of goes over my story of how I persevered through being told I can never be a nurse. And then my like fourth business is coaching other nurses into financial freedom through real estate and become their own boss.
I think it's funny how you're the second person, like we make it all the way through the episode, and then you kind of like throw it on us that you actually you wrote a book. Like I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah. I'm actually writing another one for real estate.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Well, I think like, especially with like the systems that you developed, because it's like, to be in and out of a property in about a week and have it all set and ready to go remotely. I'd read that book.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So where can people, you've mentioned a couple of the, Instagram and those kinds of things, but where are the best places for people to find you?
Mostly Instagram. Go DM me on Instagram. Actually, I personally respond to everybody. So I've had so many people, I'm so surprised that you actually responded. I said, well, that's my whole goal, is to be personal, create a community, create trust, and bring you to success. So if they want to reach out to me, Instagram, DM me. I will personally message you back.
Cool.
Sounds good.
Well, thank you for joining us. It's it sounds like there's a lot more to go over on. So we might have to have you back on another episode, talk about all the businesses. But yeah, this has been great. Maybe we'll run into you on the road somewhere, either traveling or actually, if we travel in the same place, it might not be good because you might be getting a report from me, and I don't know. I can almost guarantee that the patient's going to come to MedSurg hungry. But
okay. I'm not going back to MedSurg anytime soon. So.
All right. Well, maybe your husband then.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. But yeah, no, thank you. We appreciate you coming on and sharing all this with us.
Thank you so much for having me.